Hey guys, what's up? This is Krazak here, and basically I'll get right into it for you. Today's vid is about the end crystal. As you can see, you can place end crystals on obsidian, and you can also place it on bedrock, as well as if you're in the nether or in the end, you can use beds to explode as well. But with this comes the necessity to learn about the mechanics. Basically items you don't need for crystal PvP or PvP or PvE rather. You don't need beds. Make it plain and simple. You don't need the bed. I mean, granted, while it does work, it takes up inventory spots and crystals. You don't need the bow. Even though I use a bow, bow spam is a horrible, horrible idea in crystal PvP as it's not going to get you anywhere. Elytra are useful as far as if you want to escape, but that's about it. You don't need potions. No matter what, you don't need fire resist, you don't need strength pots, they're not going to do you any good, and they're just going to take up space. Shields, again, same thing, they protect you from swords, from bows, but they are not going to save you from crystal blasts. Basically, the crystal blast will just negate your shield, it's going to be pointless. Food, steak, golden carrots, whatever you want. You have golden apples for that, so you're not really going to need food like that. And it would just take up an extra space you don't need to take up. As you see, like my inventory does not have food in it other than golden apples. And water buckets. Or lava buckets in that matter either. Unless you're doing something with water or lava, you don't need it. However, items you do need or you will definitely need for crystal PvP. Crystals. Obviously, this is the core mechanic of the entire PvP style. You definitely 100% need crystals. Golden apples is a notch apples. These things have actually been buffed since they've been changed in 1.9. As you can see, they give you extra health, they give you absorption, resistance, fire res. Get a sharpness 5 sword, even though you won't be using it primarily. You need it. Efficiency 5 pick, even though you won't be mining a ton, you'll still need to do things like mine obsidian. Totems will save your life, but the thing about totems is that it's a tool. You should not rely on them to keep you safe, as well as obsidian. You place down the obsidian and then you can place a crystal on top. Plain and simple. You need extra armor. Usually people take 3 to 5 extra sets, including what's on you. I have 4 extra sets. Blastprot 4, even though people are like, Blastprot, that's a horrible enchantment. Why would you ever use Blastprot? Because you're dealing with explosives, that's why. And Ender Pearls, good for getting into places, good for getting out of places. You only usually need 1 stack, but yeah. Ender chests are another thing that you'll need, but it's one of the things where, yeah, you can place down extra things like your end crystals as well as you have extra stocks to deal with. And while this isn't what I want the ender chest to look like because it's completely blank, I have a couple sample boxes that you should have. Each of these represent basically one item that you should have a full stock of. This one is totems. You have extra helmets, extra chest plates, extra blast prot forelegs, and extra boots. This one is a crystal box, plain and simple. You will use crystals and you will burn a lot of crystals. Ender pearls, again, to get into places, to get out of places. Plain and simple. This one is actually interesting. You have bottles of enchanting, which, interestingly enough, because your armor has mending, if you have a chance to use bottles of enchanting, it's a good thing. The black box here is a box of obsidian. You will go through obsidian in order to place crystals, in order to protect yourself, stuff like that. So it's good to take them, and notch apples for obvious reasons. This one, I decided, hey, it's an extra box. Here you can have your extra tools, your extra ender chests, your things like wood and diamonds and steak and water, as well as possibly having some extra withers lying around. Your bows, a stack of arrows because you only need to take one due to infinity, and then like any extra weapons or things like that that you might use, like an axe. But yeah, if you need a wither, you can summon a wither. Plain and simple. Here in the arena I've set up, we have a basic demonstration of how crystals work. If you just place a crystal down, just an end crystal, hit it even with a crystal in your hand, it will explode. Plain and simple. And you'll see it does a ton of damage. I've already taken basically over half my health just because of placing down the crystals and blowing them up on the same Y level. However, going a Y level above will mean that it doesn't do as much damage to you. And as you can see, half a heart of damage and a regen. Whereas if it places on the same Y level, once again, it's going to hurt a lot more. Another way to do this is also to mine down. Mining down, being below the crystal, and having it just on a regular Y level, it will also pretty much mean you take a lot less damage. The way the crystals work, it seems that it affects your hitbox more at your feet than it does at your head. In which the blocks being in the way, like that, will actually mean that you take reduced damage, because it's not coming into direct contact with the lower half of your hitbox. Placing a crystal on the other side of a block, which you can do, as well as blowing up a crystal right on the other side of a block, is another good way to assure that you don't lose health. Or you put a block between you and the explosion. Pretty plain and simple. And you'll notice I still have 3 extra hearts of absorption, which is overall a very good thing. You'll notice throughout this entire process that it is very much taxing on armor, and this is the very reason why I have so many sets of armor in my inventory. Now, a normal crystal PvP arena is basically littered with obsidian, bedrock, etc., etc. And you'll see a lot of players will just kind of randomly hide behind blocks or jump above over blocks, under blocks, build up, mine down, build a wall, make it all fairly plain and simple. And the reason for this is so that you can move around the terrain, you can get behind blocks as you place down crystals and blow them up, and so that you're not standing directly in the crystal. Which you can see it has a fairly large range. And even blowing it up from a distance with a projectile will still cause a lot of damage. But you can actually see it has quite a large blast radius. Even standing 10 blocks or more away, you can still receive damage from the crystal. You can see the crystal blowing up directly on you causes a lot more damage, which is why it's so essential to have golden apples on your person at all time during crystal PvP. Fairly plain and simple. It will save your life, it will allow you to regenerate, and all the more. I'm going to make a quick run over here just to kind of demonstrate one of the things you can do during all the time in order to keep yourself healthy as far as armor goes. And granted, this is something that you don't really do lightly. This is something that you would only be able to do when you are safe. Now, as you'll notice, I throw down a bunch of experience bottles, and I check my armor as well, just to be sure. A good tell of when experience bottles stop working so efficiently is when you actually start collecting the experience. Because when you have everything that needs mended, yeah, you're pretty much not going to see. But crystals can be placed in gaps, they can be blown up between blocks, but overall, you need to know a crystal has a very large hitbox in comparison to other things like creepers or other explosives. Placing a block behind you, but the block's still blowing up, the block will pretty much prevent you from taking a lot of the knockback, but you'll still take a lot of the damage. Crystals can also, in the end, be blown up and even placed 2 blocks above you, or if not more. But you'll notice you can place through the edge, but you can't blow them up without actually touching them. So you can't blow them up through the edge. As you'll notice, jumping is not a good idea as well. You do not want to jump while having to face a crystal. It's one of those things where, yes, you have to jump, yes, you have to run around the arena, but running is a better option than jumping or even running and jumping together, just because you still get a lot of the same knockback, a lot of the same damage. A good strategy to do when you are dealing with crystals is, when you see a crystal on the same Y level, if at all possible, mine a block down. You can even retaliate by just spamming crystals, and you'll see you burn through these things like nothing else. And they do a ton of damage, which is good, but at the same time, it's just place, boom, place, boom, place, boom, rinse, repeat. Makes sense. You get through it, but yes, it also breaks through your armor, but hopefully it'll break through the opponent's armor faster. Something to notice here is that it does not take a long time, but you have totems for a reason, because boom, you'll see it will kill you in 2, 3 hits, maybe even 4 if you're under full gapple, and have at least somewhat protection. But yeah, it's important to have totems at all time. It's important to always be able to switch into them, but you do not rely on these things. It's just like, oh, I'm going to pop a totem so that I can get an advantage as far as terrain goes. No, that's not why you pop a totem. You usually want to gapple out and then to Ender Pearl out, and then gapple up before coming back into the fight. Because totems are a valuable resource, you're probably not going to have a lot of them. So yeah, basic summary, totems are not going to be something that you just use casually. No, they're meant to save you. But yeah, you're not going to need too many gapples. You're going to need a lot of crystals. You're going to need a lot of totems during the whole thing. This is more of my own setup for crystal PvP, but you don't have to follow this exactly. It varies from 3 sets of armor total to 5 sets of armor, but it's pretty much just preference, how confident you are, as well as how you deal with PvP and the enemy you're facing. As you can see here, the blast cone is very well demonstrated, in which there is a smaller blast cone as well as a larger blast cone. You can see the white circle is the smaller one, and it reaches quite far, but the black lines that shoot out, even from a distance like that, even from a distance where you can zoom in, you can see it still has a very, very large blast radius. That can even still hurt you all the way away from it. Which is crazy. But yeah, the reason you use a bow in Crystal PvP is not at all bow spam. If you use a bow to bow spam in Crystal PvP, you will die, plain and simple. because bow spam is very much overwhelmed by crystal PvP. Being above a crystal when it explodes can also help you, but you will take knockback while not taking the damage. So it's a lot easier to be below the crystal instead. Now, one important thing to notice is that crystal PvP is going to affect the terrain around you. If you have it a block above, probably not going to affect it that much. A block below, or the same Y level, it's not really going to affect it that much. But where you have it the block below, that's where it starts getting pretty crazy. And you'll see that. Just a simple crystal will forever change the environment around you. And keep in mind, most terrain isn't going to just be flat. Terrain is very much dynamic instead of just static. And so because of that, yeah, when you crystal, you're going to need to be very aware of the terrain. And as you already see, like, these are 4 different Y levels, and I've only placed a few crystals. As you'll see, like, it's very much easy to come down. Like, once the terrain is dynamic, it's easy to step down from it, or step up from it, to where you won't have to worry about knockback, to where you'll be able to save on damage, all of that. As well as to be able to place a crystal, and then quickly step up or down before breaking the crystal. But it's one of those things where you need to be careful of what Y level you're on, which is, again, why it's always very important to have golden apples on ya. As you can see, placing it like a couple Y levels down, it changes the terrain so much. But yeah, you have quite a wide range of where you can place the crystal and can't place the crystal. And it's going to destroy terrain quite a bit, unless it's, of course, obsidian or bedrock. But even then, it can still destroy basically every other block. Crystalline can also take place around walls or blocks, or I guess various objects. As you notice, I can place a crystal there, I can place a crystal right over here, stand behind this wall, blow it up, and as you see, I can still take reduced damage, plus it'll actually send the crystal blast to trigger the next one. Here we go, you can also attack mobs or even other players with the same exact strategy. And granted, Creeper does not want to cooperate, but we'll deal with that. Here we go. Same sort of concept, one-shots them. So unless they have Blast Prot, they are pretty much all going to die in one hit. And you can notice you can still do the same thing where you place around the wall, and there you go, Creeper's dead. So don't be afraid to use multiple crystals to get around places. In survival, same sort of thing. Creepers, while they're not as volatile as crystals, basically are familiar but have very similar mechanics. As you notice, behind the blocks, or on top of a block, same sort of deal. Once the creeper notices me, you'll see, same thing. I'm not taking damage from the blast, which is massively important. Even above the creeper, just the 1 block gap makes a lot of difference. And again, straight through, doesn't do anything. Interestingly enough, this can actually even have an impact with little to no armor. So take off the big things, so going through, take off chestplate and blast prot pants, which I actually use blast prot pants. Take those off, same sort of deal. Creeper can blow up, you're not going to take damage, because you blocked and put basically a shield between you. And it's that weird thing of how blast physics actually work. In which case, you pretty much don't have to worry about the upper half of your hitbox when it comes to blast physics. So as you see, I don't have any armor on. Boom. Creeper blows up. I take half a heart. And there's resistance, so I'm probably going to demonstrate it again once resistance wears off, just to prove to you the point. Come on, Creeper. There we go. Standing behind the block, I still only take that little bit, which this physic right here can actually save you during a lot of major PvP events, such as UHC, etc. And yes, it does still do more above or below. If you can manage to block in between you actually save a lot. But anyways, guys, this pretty much wraps it up for the simple introduction to what blast physics are, how to use them, how to survive with them. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys learned. It's not necessarily something that's easy to learn at first, but once you learn it, it's something that is incredible to actually put into practice. I personally love the PvP style, even though it is a really weird and awkward style. It fits really well and has a lot of real-time strategy to it. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed. This is Krazak, signing out. See ya!